Welcome to So Much Fun. I'm Colleen Murphy and I teach sewing. This past week, one of my students asked me about how do you do a Y seam. She was working on a quilt, and that's usually the situation when it comes to Y seams. So today I thought I would walk us through how you do a Y seam. This pattern is called Tumbling Block, and it's a very good project to use for our sample. And it's very obvious with all the different fabrics to see the Y. Right here is your Y. And with a tumbling block, it's important that your lightest color is on top, the darkest color is to your right, and then your medium color is to the left. When you do this, you want to sew your medium and your dark together. So I have one already done, and the important part is that you're just doing a 1/4 inch seam and you sew the entire seam. You do not stop a 1/4 of an inch from either end. The entire seam will be sewn. And another important point to remember is you must press this seam open, all right? You don't want to press it to one or the other sides, but have it pressed open. Once that's pressed open, and notice I use a little piece of fabric whenever I'm sewing my seam to make sure I have stitches right to the very edge. The second step to doing the Y seam is taking your fabric, we're going to sew half of it from the dark side. So we place our lightest color underneath and we sew that seam right up to where the dark and the medium meet that seam. 1/4 of an inch is where that is. And so if you measured underneath, that lightest color stops at 1/4 of an inch. From there, you'll stop, you'll have your needle down, and you will turn that fabric. You'll just take this fabric and turn it underneath. So this should be on top. All right, and I'm going to demonstrate this, but I thought I would just show you the samples first. So you just turn it, and you just kind of flatten that out. But the point is, you don't want any puckers. We don't like puckers. And so you're going to turn it, and then you're going to finish the seam. So here is the completed block, and you see that there's no puckers here, and you flip it over, no pucker there, nice and flat. Pressing is very important, but it's pretty simple. So I'm going to demonstrate how to do it over at the sewing machine so you can see that it really is not that intimidating at all. You might notice that on my sewing machine, I have the words hold needle thread. I have that on every one of my machines. So when you start, you want to be holding the thread that's coming from your needle, and then at least for one stitch, and then after that is not necessary. But that's to help keep the thread from getting all tangled up underneath the fabric. So I'm just going to go so I can get it as close as I can to this. And I've got, of course, my 1/4 inch foot on here. And I usually sew about 3 stitches ahead. I like to use a 3 stitch length, so therefore it's very necessary to reverse. You want to get that reverse to the edge. And now we're going to come forward again, and we're just going to keep on sewing until we get to the very end. And we're going to sew all the way to the end. We're not going to stop a 1/4 of an inch from the edge. We're going to sew all the way to the end. And then I'm going to reverse back a couple of stitches. That's enough. And then come forward again, and then I'll cut my thread. Now, if you'll just wait a moment, I'm going to go to the iron and I'm going to press this open. Now that I have the seam pressed open, I place the 3rd diamond, which is the lightest color, underneath, and I just begin the seam, and I don't have anything pinned. I'm going to be real adventurous and not pin. Do one more stitch, and then I want to reverse back. And now we're going to just sew right up to the seam so that the needle will be in the seam. I'll slow down so I'll make sure I hit it on that seam. And I'm going to go one, here, up. Okay, now we're going to back up, and now I've got it on the seam. At this point, I'm going to reach underneath. I'm now going to bring the second side of the diamond over, and I'm just turning it so that it meets with the medium diamond, just like that. I just smooth it all out. That's all you do right there, and we're ready to finish the seam. Another thing you can do when you get to the end of the seam, if you don't want to reverse because you think it'll kind of bunch up, is just to turn it around and then just go over some of your stitches at the very end. And we'll cut that thread. And let's see what we have. I've got to press it. I need to go press. But I think it's going to work, but let me go press it and then we'll look at it again. I want to back up and say that when you press this seam, you do not press it open. You press it so that the lightest fabric, the one on top, presses down, because that way it will be nice and flat. You don't want to try to open it up because you're going to get bulk right at that point. So basically this is it. You have a nice corner, no puckers, everything is nice and flat. And it really isn't that hard to do. Just have to remember the few steps that I've demonstrated, and you should be just fine. I hope this video has been helpful for you, and please come back. Don't forget to subscribe and have so much fun.